Hello, my name is Amanda, and I'm 30 years old. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, a place that looks warm and steady from the outside, but for me, it has been a city of constant tests. People here say the desert makes you strong. Maybe that's true. But the truth is, nothing in this city made me stronger than the storm that came from inside my own home. It was exactly 3 a.m. when my phone exploded with the kind of ringing that pulls your soul out of sleep. I remember blinking at the screen, trying to steady my breathing as I saw the name Mom flashing over and over again. Before I could even say hello, I heard her voice, sharp, angry, panicked. "Amanda," she screamed. "Get up right now, send $50,000 immediately, or your brother will die tonight." Behind her voice, I could hear my father, William, shouting orders like a commander in a battlefield. "Tell her to hurry. If she doesn't send the money, Tyler is finished." "Do you hear me, Amanda?" "He is finished." For a moment, I just sat there, half asleep, half in shock. Their words crashed into me so fast that I couldn't even understand what was happening. My heart was beating so loud it felt like it was shaking the room. My mother kept yelling, her voice breaking between rage and fake sobs. My father kept throwing blame in the background, shouting my name like I was a soldier disobeying orders. And then something inside me snapped. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was every year of sacrifice weighing on my chest. Maybe it was the sudden realization that for them, I wasn't a daughter. I was a bank account with a beating heart. So I took a slow breath, gripped my phone tighter, and said something I had never dared to say in my entire life. "No." The moment that word left my mouth, the world went silent. It felt like the air around me froze. "What did you just say?" my mother hissed. "I said no," I repeated, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. "I'm not sending money tonight." My father rushed to the phone and shouted so loud I had to pull it away from my ear. "Amanda, this is life or death. Tyler is in the hospital. They beat him, do you understand? If you don't send that money right now, it will be your fault if anything happens to him." My fault. It was always my fault, wasn't it? But this time I didn't crumble. This time, something inside me refused to break. "I'm sorry," I whispered, though I didn't feel sorry at all. "But I'm not doing this again. Not tonight. Not ever." My father cursed under his breath and hung up so hard I heard the click echo in my room. I stared at the dark ceiling for a long moment, the silence ringing louder than their screams had. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't panicking. I wasn't even crying. I felt free. But freedom isn't quiet. It doesn't come gently. It comes with consequences. Not even 5 minutes later, my phone vibrated again, this time with messages. Dozens of them. Missed calls. Angry texts. Voicemails filled with rage and threats and guilt. "How could you do this to your family? You heartless girl. Tyler could die, and it will be your fault. You selfish disappointment." I locked my phone, placed it face down, and sat on the edge of my bed. My chest felt tight, but not with fear, with clarity. I finally saw what I had refused to see for years. My parents didn't want me. They wanted what I could give. They didn't love me. They loved the money I saved them. They didn't see my sacrifices. They saw my wallet. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. I lay back down, pulled my blanket over my shoulders, and closed my eyes, even as the phone beeped nonstop beside me. I knew my refusal would set off a firestorm. I knew chaos was coming. I knew tomorrow would be a battlefield. But I also knew one thing with absolute certainty. This night, this single, terrifying, powerful night, would change everything. And I was finally ready for it. Growing up, I always believed that love meant giving. My mother, Brenda, made sure of that. She used to hold my face in her hands and say, "Amanda, you're the eldest. Your job is to sacrifice so the family can rise." At the time, I thought it was wisdom. Now I know it was programming. A quiet, carefully crafted script designed to make me carry every burden they didn't want to lift themselves. My father, William, was never the soft kind of parent. He didn't hug. He didn't ask about feelings. He made rules, and everyone followed them, well, everyone except Tyler. My little brother lived in a world where consequences didn't exist. If he messed up, I fixed it. If he forgot, I remembered. If he broke something, I paid for it. And if he failed somehow, I was the one blamed for not supporting him enough. From the age of 16, every paycheck I earned became the family's emergency fund. Not by choice, by pressure. My mom would sit across from me at the dinner table, tapping her fingers, her voice sweet but sharp underneath. "Amanda, honey, Tyler's textbooks are very expensive. You know he's trying to build a future. You're the responsible one, can you help?" And of course I helped. Because I was trained to. Because every time I hesitated, my dad would sigh loud enough for the neighbors to hear, as if I had committed a crime. College wasn't any different. While I juggled classes and part-time jobs, Tyler was busy exploring his passions, which somehow always required more money. Every fee he owed, every class he dropped, every car part he ruined, my savings disappeared into fixing the mess. And still, my parents treated him like a prince and me like a machine programmed to say, "Sure, I'll take care of it." I remember one winter when Tyler crashed his used car into a mailbox. My dad didn't yell at him. Instead, he turned to me with that same cold disappointment. "Amanda, you should have told him to drive slower." That was the day I learned something important. In my family, Tyler could do no wrong, and I could do nothing right. It wasn't just money, it was emotional labor. Every meltdown Tyler had, every failure, every heartbreak, I was the one who stayed awake with him at night, listening, supporting, reassuring him that everything would be okay. Not once in 30 years did anyone sit beside my bed and ask me the same. I paid for Tyler's college application fees, his apartment deposit, his groceries, even his credit card debt when he maxed it out buying video games and electronics. When I confronted him, he just smirked and said, "Relax, Amanda. You make more money than me anyway." And my parents? They defended him. Brenda would whisper, "He's your little brother. Stop keeping score." But what she never understood was that I wasn't keeping score. I was drowning in responsibility that wasn't mine. The truth is, I didn't mind helping. What broke me wasn't sacrifice, it was the complete lack of appreciation. I was invisible unless someone needed something from me. Holidays, birthdays, family events. I was always the one cleaning up, paying bills, running errands, and standing on the sidelines while Tyler basked in praise for doing absolutely nothing. Even when I bought him a used Honda so he could get to work, my parents bragged about how hard Tyler worked to earn it. They never once mentioned me. Little by little, the resentment grew, not because I hated them, but because I hated what they turned me into, a resource, not a daughter. Looking back now, I can see the pattern clearly. Every sacrifice I made pushed me deeper into a role I never agreed to play. And the worst part? They expected it. They had become so comfortable draining me dry that the idea of me saying no felt like a betrayal to them. So when that 3 a.m. phone call came, when they shouted demands instead of asking for help, it wasn't a sudden break. It was the final snap of a chain that had been tightening around my neck for years. For the first time in my life, I finally realized something. I had given them everything and they had given me nothing in return. I always knew Tyler was reckless, but I never realized how far he had wandered into danger until it was already too late. In the beginning, it seemed harmless. Late-night poker games with friends, casual bets on basketball games. Small losses he brushed off like they meant nothing. But slowly, almost quietly, he slipped into the darker corners of Phoenix where gambling isn't a game anymore, it's a trap. It started after he lost another job, the third one in a year. He was frustrated, angry at the world, and desperate to prove he wasn't a failure. One night, he met a group of guys through a coworker, men who promised fast money, easy wins, and a way to change his luck. Tyler always believed he was smarter than everyone else, so of course he believed them too. He kept telling my parents he was investing, that he was working on something big, while Brenda proudly repeated his words like gospel. I had my doubts, but every time I tried to ask questions, William shut me down with a glare that said, "Don't you dare judge your brother." But the truth always comes out eventually. Weeks later, Tyler's small bets turned into huge ones, bets he couldn't afford, bets no sane person would place. But gambling has a way of convincing people that the next win will fix everything. And Tyler, with his ego and impulsive streak, fell for it completely. He borrowed money from his friends, then from people he shouldn't have, and when that wasn't enough, he borrowed from men like Marco. Marco wasn't some casual gambler or friendly loan provider. He was the kind of man whose name traveled through Phoenix like a warning. He operated underground rings where people lost fortunes, reputations, even limbs. If you owed him money, you didn't get reminders, you got threats. And if you didn't pay the threats, you got punished. The night everything fell apart, Tyler had gone into one of Marco's illegal backroom tables convinced he would win big. He didn't just lose. He lost spectacularly. $50,000 gone in a matter of hours. $50,000 he didn't have. $50,000 Marco wanted back immediately. When Tyler tried to argue, insisting he had been cheated, Marco's men didn't waste time correcting him. They dragged him outside, beat him until he couldn't stand, and dumped him outside a hospital like trash. A nurse found him bleeding, bruised, barely conscious, with enough fear in his eyes to terrify anyone who looked at him. But Marco's men weren't finished. They showed up at my parents' house the next evening, two tall, silent men in black jackets who didn't bother hiding their intentions. They told Brenda and William exactly what Tyler owed, exactly what would happen if they didn't pay. And then came the ultimatum delivered in a calm, icy voice. You have two choices. Pay $50,000 or hand over your house. My parents panicked. Brenda cried so hard she could barely breathe. William tried to negotiate, but Marco's men shut him down. There was no negotiation, no grace period, no sympathy. When they left, my parents called me, not to explain, not to ask for emotional support, but to demand money like I was some emergency bank account waiting to be activated. In their minds, the solution was simple. Amanda will fix this. Amanda always fixes everything. They never once asked how I was doing. They never once questioned why Tyler made those decisions. They never once blamed him. Instead, they blamed me for hesitating. Looking back now, the entire situation feels like a slow-moving disaster I had been watching from a distance, powerless to stop. Tyler wasn't just a victim of gambling, he was a victim of years of entitlement, years of being told that someone else, me, would clean up every mess he ever made. But this time, the mess was too big. This time, no one could save him. And this time, I refused to destroy myself trying. The phone kept vibrating long after I had ended the first call, each buzz echoing through my dark bedroom like a warning siren. I knew my parents wouldn't stop. They never did, not when they wanted something. Brenda's name flashed again and again, followed by William's, switching back and forth like they were taking turns attacking me. My chest tightened, but I didn't pick up, not yet. I needed one breath, 1 second, one moment to remind myself that I wasn't their puppet anymore. But they didn't intend to give me even that much. After the 13th missed call, my phone rang again. This time I answered, not because I wanted to, but because I knew avoiding them would only make things worse. The moment the call connected, Brenda exploded. Amanda, how dare you hang up on me at a time like this? Your brother could be dying and you're thinking about sleep? Her voice was trembling, not with sadness, but with rage. The kind of rage only someone entitled to your obedience feels. I swallowed hard. Mom, I told you, I can't give you $50,000. Not tonight. Not ever. She let out a harsh, sharp breath, the kind she used to give me when I didn't do chores fast enough. You selfish girl. Do you know what you're saying? Tyler is lying in a hospital bed covered in bruises. Marco's men could come back any moment. And you're refusing to help? What kind of sister are you? Before I could respond, William grabbed the phone. Amanda, he said, his voice low, heavy, and cold. Enough of this attitude. You're going to listen to me very carefully. You will transfer that money right now. Not tomorrow. Not in the morning. Right now. I squeezed the phone tighter. Dad, I don't have that kind of money just lying around. And even if I did, I'm done cleaning up Tyler's messes. He did this to himself. Silence. Then a soft, dangerous growl. So you think you're better than us now? Too good to help your own brother? After everything we've done for you? I almost laughed. Everything they've done for me? What exactly was that? Years of emotional manipulation? Years of treating me like a tool? But I didn't speak those thoughts out loud. Instead, I said quietly, I'm not responsible for this. That set him off. Not responsible, he roared. If Tyler dies, Amanda, it will be on your conscience. Do you understand me?
On you.
Because you decided your comfort mattered more than your family. My eyes burned, but no tears fell. Not this time. I had cried too many tears over this family already. Brenda snatched the phone back. Please, Amanda, she pleaded, her voice cracking in a way that would have broken me years ago. They said they'll take our house if we don't pay. Our house. The only thing we have left. Do you want your parents to end up on the streets? Guilt, sharp, familiar, stabbed into my chest. They always did this. Always. Turn every crisis into my responsibility. Turn every consequence into my fault. Turn every mistake into something I was obligated to fix. But this time, something inside me held strong. No, I whispered, my voice steady. I won't do it. Brenda gasped like I had slapped her. What did you say? I said no. You ungrateful. Enough. I cut in, my voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. You raised me to believe that love meant sacrifice. But all I've done is sacrifice, and none of you have ever loved me enough to see it. I'm tired, Mom. I'm exhausted. I can't destroy my life for Tyler again. You'll regret this, William snapped. One day, you'll regret saying no. But I already knew that wasn't true. Regret was staying silent. Regret was giving in. Regret was letting them use me forever. This was freedom. I'm hanging up now, I said softly. Good night. And for the first time in my life, I ended the call on my own terms. The morning after that 3 a.m. phone call, I woke up to a storm I never saw coming. My phone was buzzing nonstop, not from my parents this time, but from notifications. Hundreds of them. Mentions.
Tags.
Messages. And a sinking feeling formed in my stomach before I even unlocked the screen. When I finally opened TikTok, the first thing I saw was Tyler's face. He was lying in the hospital bed, bruises around his cheek, an oxygen tube taped under his nose, his voice shaky, but his message perfectly delivered for sympathy. Hey everyone, he said, barely whispering. I never wanted to post something like this, but my sister refused to help me. I begged her, my parents begged her, but she said no. And now, I don't know if I'll survive. His voice cracked, convincingly enough that thousands of strangers immediately flooded the comments with pity and rage. Then came the final blow. He looked directly at the camera and said, If anything happens to me tonight, it's because Amanda chose money over family. The video had over 200,000 views within an hour. Comments poured in like acid. Wow, what a heartless sister. Imagine letting your brother die over money. Some people don't deserve family. She should be ashamed of herself. What a selfish witch. My hands started shaking. My entire body felt hollow. It was like someone had taken a piece of my soul and put it on a public display board for vultures to tear apart. And then, like a punch straight to the chest, I saw Brenda in the comments. Please pray for my son. His sister isn't cooperating. We're devastated. Not Amanda doesn't have the money. Not Amanda has helped us her whole life. Not Amanda is scared and exhausted. Just blame. Just shame. Just betrayal. William wasn't far behind. On Facebook, he posted a picture of Tyler in the hospital bed with a long paragraph about families falling apart because of selfish children who forget their responsibilities. Neighbors began sharing it. Relatives commented with crying emojis. People who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly felt entitled to judge me like they knew my story. By noon, I was trending locally under the tag #HeartlessSister. I wish I could say I ignored it. I wish I could say I was strong enough not to scroll, not to read, not to let strangers define me. But I read everything. Every insult. Every accusation. Every lie Tyler crafted with a trembling voice and practiced innocence. The pressure became so heavy that I felt my chest tighten. My breath grew sharp and uneven. I sat on the edge of my bed with my hands covering my face, as if I could block out the entire world. I wasn't crying yet. I was too numb even for tears. What hurt the most wasn't the strangers or the trending hashtags. It was knowing that my own parents stood behind every word. Not once did Brenda comment, "Amanda has supported this family for years." Not once did William defend me. Not once did anyone say, "This isn't her fault." Instead, they fed the fire. They gave Tyler fuel. They handed the world a version of me that was easy to hate. Somewhere deep inside, something cracked. For years, I believed if I just gave enough, helped enough, loved enough, they would eventually see me, appreciate me, want me. But this was the day I finally understood a truth I had been too afraid to face. I was never family to them. I was only their solution. And now that I wasn't solving their disaster, they were ready to destroy me. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. 2 days after Tyler's TikTok meltdown and the public humiliation that followed, my parents received a visit they had been dreading. Marco's men pulled up in a black SUV and stepped out with the same cold, confident expressions they wore the first time. No yelling, no threats, just quiet authority that felt far more frightening. Brenda later told me, through a furious voicemail I didn't answer, that the men didn't waste a second. They walked into the living room like they owned the place. William tried to offer them coffee, stalling for time, but they didn't sit down. One of them placed a thin envelope on the table and said calmly, "This is your final notice. You have 72 hours to pay Marco the full $50,000. If not, the house deed becomes ours. No extensions. No excuses." Brenda cried so loud the neighbors could probably hear her. William tried bargaining, begging, promising to repay later, but Marco's men simply repeated the same line, 72 hours. Money or house. Then they left.
Just like that.
No threats. No yelling. Just certainty that they would get what they came for. Brenda and William panicked. Instead of facing the reality of Tyler's choices or their own negligence, they began calling me nonstop, leaving messages filled with fear and rage. "Amanda, this is your last chance to fix this. They're going to take everything, our home, our memories, all of it. How can you sleep at night knowing what you're doing to us?" What I was doing to them. Not what Tyler had done. Not what they allowed.
Me.
The next morning, they called again while I was at work. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My chest tightened every time my phone lit up. I felt like I was suffocating. But ignoring them didn't stop what was coming. By evening, Brenda sent one final message. "We're selling the house. I hope you're happy." I stared at those words for a long time. Selling the house. The house I grew up in. The house where I took my first steps. The house where my mother used to braid my hair before school. The house where I cried myself to sleep after every argument. And they were losing it, not because of me, but because of Tyler. Because of years of enabling him. Because of their refusal to accept responsibility. But to them, it was easier to blame the daughter who said no once than the son who destroyed everything. Within 48 hours, a desperate sale went through. They sold the house far below its worth just to get the money quickly. My parents handed the entire amount over to Marco, who accepted it with a nod and a warning that if Tyler ever came near his circle again, the consequences would be far worse. And just like that, it was over. Tyler disappeared for a while, probably hiding with friends or staying somewhere he didn't have to face the destruction he caused. Brenda and William, now homeless, chose to stay with an old cousin. But instead of facing the truth of what happened, they created a new narrative, one that painted me as the villain. They told the entire family I refused to help. They said I abandoned them in their darkest hour. They even claimed I wanted them to lose the house. Every story had the same ending. Amanda could have saved us. She just didn't care. Hearing these things hurt, but not for the reasons they thought. I didn't care about the relatives' opinions. I didn't even care about the lies. What broke me was realizing fully, deeply, finally, that my parents would rather lose their home, their security, and their dignity than admit their golden son had ruined everything. They would rather become homeless than accept that I wasn't their servant anymore. And in that painful realization, something shifted inside me. A truth I had run from for years now stood right in front of me. No matter what I gave them, I was never going to be their daughter. I was only ever the solution to their problems. And now that I had stopped being the solution, I had become the enemy. After the house was gone and the noise finally died down, I expected to feel empty. I thought the silence would swallow me whole. But instead, it felt like breathing real air for the first time in years. It was strange waking up without anxiety clawing at my chest, without my phone buzzing with demands, without someone waiting for me to solve a problem. For the first time in my adult life, my mornings belonged to me. I moved into a small, bright apartment on the north side of Phoenix. It wasn't fancy. The kitchen tiles were old, the bathroom door creaked, and the living room windows faced a busy street. But it was mine. Mine to decorate, mine to clean, mine to wake up in without fear of someone barging in with another crisis. When I unlocked the door for the first time, I whispered to myself, "Welcome home," and the words felt almost unreal. I didn't know peace could sit so quietly in my chest. One of the first things I did was block my parents and Tyler on every platform: phone, social media, email, everything. At first, my hands trembled as I hit block. It felt like severing a real, physical cord. But with every click, the weight on my shoulders lifted a little more. Their voices, those commands, those accusations, finally faded into the distance where they belonged. Sarah, my closest friend, became my anchor during those weeks. She showed up with grocery bags and new bedsheets, insisting I deserved soft cotton and warm meals. She sat with me on my new couch, sipping cheap wine, listening patiently as I tried to make sense of everything that had happened. "You're not a bad daughter," she told me one night, her voice steady. "You're someone who finally set herself free." I didn't know how much I needed to hear that until the tears came, slow at first, then uncontrollable. The kind of tears that wash out years of pain you didn't realize you were carrying. Sarah held my hand the whole time, reminding me I wasn't alone, even if my family had thrown me away like I was nothing. In the days that followed, I signed up for therapy. I had resisted it for years, mostly because I convinced myself that I didn't have the time or that I wasn't damaged enough. But sitting across from a therapist for the first time, telling her everything I had been holding inside, every sacrifice, every blame, every moment of being used, it felt like a dam had burst.
She didn't judge me.
She didn't tell me to forgive or forget. She simply said, "Amanda, you've spent your whole life surviving other people's chaos. Now you get to build your own peace." Those words stayed with me. Slowly, I built a routine that wasn't shaped around someone else's needs. I woke up early, made coffee just the way I liked it, went for walks in the morning breeze, and let sunlight pour into my apartment without feeling guilty for enjoying something simple. I worked hard at my job, not because I had to support someone else, but because I finally wanted to support myself. Days turned into weeks, and each one felt a little softer, a little lighter. I started journaling again, something I loved in high school but abandoned when life turned into a cycle of responsibilities. I wrote about strength, about boundaries, about the version of myself I was beginning to meet for the first time. There were moments of loneliness, of course. Moments when a scent or a song would remind me of childhood memories, and grief would rise quietly. But grief felt different now. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't suffocating. It was simply a reminder of who I used to be and how far I had come. Sarah and I decorated the apartment with small things that felt like pieces of my soul returning. Plants on the windowsill, framed art in bold colors, a soft blanket on the couch. My therapist called it claiming your space, and every time I walked through the door, it felt exactly like that. A space that protected me instead of draining me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the next crisis. I wasn't sacrificing myself to keep someone else afloat. I wasn't being blamed for mistakes that weren't mine. I was living, truly living. And with every quiet morning, every peaceful night, every small act of choosing myself, I could feel my confidence slowly rebuilding, like the first foundation stones of a home I was finally ready to build. A home inside myself. It had been almost 3 months since I blocked my family, 3 months of silence that felt like healing. I had started to believe that maybe, just maybe, they had finally let me go. That hope didn't last long. One quiet Sunday morning, while sunlight stretched across my living room floor, someone knocked on my apartment door. It was soft at first, then firmer, almost nervous. When I opened it, I froze. Brenda and William were standing there. My mother looked smaller somehow, exhausted, worn down, her usual sharpness dulled into something desperate. My father looked older, his shoulders slumped in a way I had never seen. Seeing them there, outside my space, felt surreal. "Amanda," Brenda whispered, stepping forward like she expected me to hug her. I didn't move. She took a shaky breath. We didn't know where else to go. My heart tightened, not out of guilt, but out of old habits. Years of wanting their approval. Years of wanting to be needed for the right reasons. But the reasons had never been right, and they still weren't. William cleared his throat, avoiding my eyes. "We need your help, Amanda." Of course they did. They didn't come to check if I was okay. They didn't come to apologize. They didn't come to acknowledge their part in the destruction of our family. They came because they wanted something. "What do you need?" I asked, my voice steady. Brenda wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "We're staying with your aunt, but she's asking us to contribute to the bills, and we can't right now. We thought maybe you could help us get a small rental." She swallowed. "Just until we get back on our feet." I stood there, studying them, not as my parents, but as two people who had spent their whole lives taking from me without ever giving back. Two people who had watched me bleed emotionally and financially for years. Two people who had thrown me under the bus publicly, just because I finally chose myself. "Why didn't you call Tyler?" I asked quietly. An uncomfortable silence filled the hallway. Brenda's eyes flickered. He's not answering us. He left town. We don't know where he is."
Of course he did.
The golden child never stayed long enough to face consequences. William let out a long breath. "Amanda, whether you like it or not, we're still your parents. We're asking for your support. Families stick together." Families stick together. The irony of that sentence almost made me laugh. I opened the door wider. Not to let them in, but to stand tall in the space that represented everything I had rebuilt. Everything I had saved myself from. "I need you both to understand something," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I spent my entire life saving all of you. Every crisis, every bill, every mistake, somehow it always fell on me. And not once did either of you stop to ask how it was affecting me." Brenda opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. "Not once," I repeated. "When Tyler ruined everything, you blamed me for not fixing it. When he humiliated me online, you supported him. When Marco threatened your house, you didn't think about Tyler's choices. You thought about my wallet." William stiffened. "We were scared. We didn't know what else to do. And I understand that," I said gently. "But your fear was never an excuse to treat me like I wasn't your daughter. You wanted my money, my labor, my sacrifices, but never me. Not really." Brenda's eyes filled with tears. "Amanda, we didn't realize." "That's the problem," I said softly. "You never realized. You never saw me until you needed something." A long silence settled between us, heavy but necessary. For years, I kept giving because I thought that was the only way to earn love. I continued. "But now I finally know the truth. Real love doesn't demand that someone destroys themselves to keep others afloat." Brenda sobbed quietly. William looked away. "I'm not abandoning you," I said. "I'm simply choosing myself. That's something I never did before." Brenda reached out as if to touch my arm, but I stepped back, not harshly, just firmly. "I hope you find the help you need," I whispered. "But it can't come from me anymore." Their faces tightened with a mixture of pain and acceptance. They turned slowly and walked down the hall, leaving behind the last emotional thread that had bound me to their expectations. I closed the door and leaned against it. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt whole. I felt free. And in the quiet stillness of my apartment, I finally understood the meaning of my own voice, the one I had silenced for years. I was never the villain for saying no. I was simply the daughter who finally learned to say yes to herself. Thank you for listening to this story. If you felt connected to Amanda's journey, or if her courage inspired you, I would truly appreciate your support. Please make sure to like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more stories just like this one. Your support helps me continue creating powerful and meaningful narratives. Thank you once again for being here, and I will see you in the next story.